My girlfriend embarrassed me in front of our friends because of my low body count. I smiled and waited. Later that evening, I raised my phone and asked, quick question. Does Mark count towards your current total, or is he for the next one? Then I displayed their entire conversation history. The revelation that ended my 2-year relationship with my girlfriend Emily wasn't a big confrontation or an emotional confession. It was a quiet digital slip-up. It happened on a Sunday afternoon. I was on the couch using our shared tablet to find a recipe. Emily was out for a run. An iMessage alert appeared at the top of the screen. The sender was Mark, with a bunch of heart emojis. The message read, "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you." I gazed at the message, my heart freezing in my chest. The previous night, Emily had told me she was having a girls' night at her friend's apartment across town. My first reaction was a hot, blinding surge of anger. But I've learned that anger is a blunt tool. It's messy and imprecise. What was needed here was the cold, sharp precision of a scalpel. I was in a seemingly happy, committed relationship. I trusted her completely. This wasn't a slow decline. It was an ambush. And an ambush needs a counterattack, not a chaotic brawl. I opened the messaging app. I didn't have to scroll far. There it was, a parallel life, a completely different narrative running alongside mine for the past 6 months. Mark was a coworker from her office. Their chats were a nauseating mix of secret plans, romantic expressions, and most painfully, a running commentary about me. I was the safe, boring boyfriend, the human golden retriever, the man she dated for stability while she figured out if Mark was the real deal. They had a whole language of disdain for me. She criticized my taste in music, my quiet nights, my loyalty. To them, my stability wasn't a strength, it was a joke. I sat there for 2 hours, reading everything. I didn't just get angry, I got informed. I saw the full extent of her deceit. Then I made a choice. I wouldn't confront her yet. A private confrontation would give her the chance to lie, to gaslight, to twist the story. She was a master of emotional manipulation. No, a betrayal this deep, this arrogant, needed a public stage. It needed an audience. So, I became the perfect boyfriend, the human golden retriever. I was more attentive, more loving, more oblivious than ever before. I was playing a role, and I was committed to delivering an award-winning performance. For the next 2 weeks, I meticulously documented everything. I took screenshots of their entire chat history and saved them in a secure, hidden folder in the cloud. I was no longer her partner. I was the prosecuting attorney building a solid case. She mistook my renewed affection for weakness. She thought her little act of deception was working perfectly. She had no idea that her quiet, stable boyfriend was just patiently waiting for her to overreach. And I knew with absolute certainty that she would. Her arrogance would be her downfall. I just had to wait for the right moment to give her the stage. The opportunity arose last Saturday night. We were out for dinner with 2 other couples, our close friends, people who had been with us throughout our relationship. The restaurant was noisy, the wine was flowing, and the conversation was easygoing. The topic, as it often does among people in their 30s, eventually shifted to past relationships and dating horror stories. It was all fun until Emily, fueled by 2 glasses of expensive Chardonnay and a deep need to be the most interesting person at the table, decided to put me in the spotlight. "Oh, you guys think you have bad stories," she said with a dramatic, dismissive laugh. "You should try dating a guy with the romantic history of a houseplant." The table fell silent. All eyes turned to me. I just smiled, maintaining a calm, neutral expression. Her friend Sarah tried to ease the situation. "Oh, come on, Emily," she said. "That's not fair. Jake is a great guy." "Oh, I know he's a great guy," Emily replied, patting my hand in a condescending gesture. "He's the best guy. He's loyal. He's sweet. He's simple. I'm his second real girlfriend ever. His body count is like 2, she said, delivering the number with a mix of pity and amusement, as if it were a shockingly low score in a video game. The other guys at the table shifted uncomfortably. "I just think it's sweet," she continued, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "He doesn't have any of that messy baggage or experience. It's like dating a blank slate. It's adorable." The humiliation felt physical. It was a hot flush that spread across my face. She wasn't just sharing a private detail. She was using my loyalty and commitment as a punchline. She was publicly belittling me, framing my devotion as a sign of pathetic inexperience, all to appear more worldly and appealing to her friends. I didn't react. I didn't defend myself. I just smiled my quiet golden retriever smile. I let her have her moment. I let her friends chuckle awkwardly. I let her think she had won the social point. I just sat there, the perfect oblivious boyfriend, and I waited. The night was still young. We all decided to return to our apartment for a nightcap. It was my suggestion. Let's keep the party going, I said with a cheerful enthusiasm that was completely fake. Back at our place, the mood relaxed again. The music was playing. Laughter filled the air. Emily was in her element, the queen of her social circle, holding court in the living room. She thought the uncomfortable moment at the restaurant was forgotten. She had no idea it was just the setup for the final act. I waited for a lull in the conversation. Then I stood up, a playful smile on my face. Okay, I said, getting everyone's attention. So, back to the topic from dinner. I've been thinking about it. And Emily, you're right. My romantic history is pretty straightforward, but it got me thinking about yours. She looked at me a bit confused, but still smiling. She loved talking about herself. I just have a quick question for you, I said, pulling my phone out of my pocket. It's about your body count. I'm just trying to keep the numbers straight for my own records, you know. I held up my phone. The screen lit up. This guy, Mark, I said, my voice still light and conversational. Quick question. Does he count towards your current total, or is he for the next one? Then I turned my phone around so that everyone in the room could see the screen. It displayed a crystal clear screenshot of one of her texts to Mark from the week before. A text that read, I can't wait to leave my boring boyfriend and start my real life with you. The silence that enveloped the living room was not merely an absence of sound. It was a physical entity. It was heavy, suffocating, and complete. The six of us were frozen in a tableau of pure, unfiltered shock. Emily's face was a masterpiece. Her playful, arrogant smirk vanished in an instant, replaced by a mask of ghostly white horror. Her eyes darted from the phone in my hand to the shocked faces of our friends, and then back to me. She looked like a magician whose trick had just gone horribly, horribly wrong, exposing the hidden wires and trapdoors to the entire audience. Her friends were speechless. Their jaws were literally hanging open. They were staring at my phone, then at Emily, their expressions a mix of disbelief and growing disgust. I didn't let the moment slip away. I kept my voice calm, almost casual, as if I were just continuing the conversation from dinner. I'm a little confused about the timeline, I said, swiping to the next screenshot. It was a picture of them smiling at a winery she had told me she was visiting with her mother. This was from last month. Were we together then? Or was that during a break I wasn't aware of? I kept swiping. With each new screenshot, a fresh wave of horror washed over the room. I revealed their romantic dinner plans on nights she had claimed to be working late. I showed them her texts to Mark, mocking my job, my friends, my very character. I presented the entire sordid 6-month history of her secret life. It was a systematic, brutal, and undeniable display of the facts. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I was just calmly narrating the story of her betrayal, using her own words as the script. When I finished, I put my phone back in my pocket. I looked at Emily. She was trembling, silent tears streaming down her face. So, I said, my voice dropping to a quiet final tone, I guess my body count is still 2, but yours, Emily? It seems the numbers are a little more complicated than you let on. That's when the room finally exploded. Her friend Sarah, the one who had tried to defend me at dinner, was the first to speak. Emily, how could you? She whispered, her voice filled with horrified pity. Emily had no answer. She just sat there, broken. Our friends began to get up. They mumbled apologies to me, giving Emily looks of pure contempt. One by one, they filed out of the apartment, leaving the three of us, me, Emily, and the ghost of her lies, in a deafening silence. When the last friend had left, I walked over to the closet and pulled out a suitcase. I dropped it on the floor in front of her. The lease on this apartment is in my name, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. The life you've been living has been on my dime. Your time here is over. Pack your things. I want you out by morning. She finally found her voice. It was a pitiful, choked sob. Where am I supposed to go? I don't know, I replied. Maybe Mark has a spare room. Or perhaps you can find another blank slate to write your lies on. But my story with you is over. It has been 6 months since the night I now refer to as the presentation. The fallout from that evening was as swift and total as I had planned. Emily left the next morning. She had to call her parents for a last-minute rescue, a humiliating experience for a woman who had built her entire identity on being a sophisticated, independent city girl. I was not there when she left. I spent the night at a hotel. When I returned, the apartment was empty of her presence, save for a few forgotten trinkets and the lingering scent of betrayal. The first thing I did was change the locks. The second thing I did was a deep, thorough cleaning of the entire apartment. It was a symbolic act, a cleansing of the space, a reclaiming of my home. The social consequences for Emily were catastrophic. The story of her public exposure raced through our social circle. She wasn't just a cheater. She was a hypocrite caught in the most spectacular way. Her friends, the ones who had witnessed the reveal, were horrified. They had been her audience, her enablers, and they felt used. They all severed ties with her. She had constructed her social standing on a foundation of lies. And when that foundation crumbled, she was left with nothing. The affair with Mark, of course, imploded immediately. He was, by all accounts, humiliated and furious. He had been her co-conspirator, but he had also been a victim of her deceit. She had told him I was just a clingy ex she couldn't shake off. The revelation that I was her live-in long-term boyfriend, the man funding the very life she was living, shocked him. He ended things with her via a single scathing text message. With no boyfriend, no friends, and no home, Emily was forced to do the one thing she had always dreaded: move back to her small hometown, back into her childhood bedroom, under the watchful eyes of her disappointed parents. The glamorous, exciting life she had been building was in ruins. As for me, my life has been a study in quiet, deliberate recovery. I took some time for myself. I focused on my work, my health, and my real friendships. I learned a valuable lesson about trust and the difference between a partner who values you and one who is simply using you as a stable backdrop for their own drama. I recently started dating again. Her name is Laura. She's a doctor. She's smart, kind, and honest. We're taking things slow. The other night, I shared the whole story with her. She listened patiently, and when I finished, she just shook her head and said, "So she mocked you for being loyal while she was actively being disloyal." The irony is almost poetic. Emily tried to humiliate me for my low body count. She tried to use my loyalty and commitment as a weapon against me. But in the end, those were the very things that made me strong. I was loyal to the idea of our relationship right up until I discovered it was a lie. And then I became loyal to something more important: the truth. She thought my past was a joke, but it was her present that was a complete and utter fraud. All I did was hold up a mirror and let her and everyone else see the truth.